This is an historic day amongst many historic days that we have had here at Talk Radio. Once again, we can report that we have a deal with the European Union. Boris Johnson, against all the odds, against what everybody said that he would do, that he was going for a no-deal Brexit on October the 31st. Barristers were hired, entire law firms were corralled. People got together in the Supreme Court and tried to stop Boris Johnson from having a no-deal Brexit. Well, guess what? He's now got a deal with Brussels. Donald Tusk says it is an amicable deal. We've got Michel Barnier saying that they have a deal. They're going to put it to all 27 members of the European Union. And of course, on Saturday, in an exclusively very, very different session of Parliament, the first this century on a Saturday, the MPs, that's you lot, are going to be voting on the deal. You lot have now got the fate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland in your hands. You lot are now powered to do the job that you were entitled to do from the beginning. 3 years ago, the people of this country voted to leave the European Union. That's 17.4 million people. I don't want to hear that you're not going to do it. I don't want to hear that you don't like the sound of it. I don't want to hear that you want a second referendum in order to make sure that you go along with it. This is what you wanted. This is what 17.4 million people wanted. Now, you've got to go and do your jobs. Do it properly. Do it Saturday. We'll be there on Talk Radio. This is the Independent Republic of Mike Graham. Do your jobs and get on with it.
Of course, there was an earlier deal. It was the Theresa May's deal, where that sort of rather went down in flames.
Is that the best you can do, Tom? For heaven's sake, come on. We've been waiting 3.5 years for this. We've now got a guy who wants to take us out of Europe in a way that you would prefer him to do it, rather than without a deal, which you've said he's going to do all along. Now that he's got a deal, you're just pouring cold water on it.
Well, as I said, I mean, Theresa May got a deal agreed with the European Union, but then it didn't get through Parliament. So let's see what, in fact, has been agreed.
And did you vote down Theresa May's deal then, Tom?
Yes, we did vote down Theresa May's deal, although both with Theresa May's deal and with Boris Johnson's deal, we have consistently said that if he was willing to, or they were willing to, attach a people's vote to it, then we wouldn't block it.
So you're not against the deal? You're just against the deal not being confirmed in a referendum?
Well, we're not against the deal being put to the people. This is what Boris Johnson appears to have negotiated. Let's wait and see what in fact has been agreed. We're not against this going to the people, where people can choose between Boris Johnson's deal and staying in the European Union. The only thing I would say about Boris Johnson's deal is that if it is similar to the one that he was talking about a couple of days ago, that triggered a response from some of our major, sort of the most innovative, progressive sectors of the UK economy, like pharmaceuticals, automotive, aerospace.
Oh, what? Sorry, pharmaceuticals are now progressive, are they?
Well, I mean, they are cutting-edge economy or sector of the UK economy.
Can you tell me why you voted against Theresa May's deal the first time around?
We voted against Theresa May's deal because she wasn't willing to put it to a people's vote.
Oh, right. So you didn't mind the actual deal?
Well, as I said, at the risk of repeating what I said a few minutes ago...
No, I'm trying to work out what you want, Tom. You're not being very transparent, I'm afraid. What you're saying to me is that you don't mind the deal itself, like you would have voted for Theresa May's deal had there been a second referendum attached to it, which tells me that you don't object to the terms of the deal.
No, what it tells you is that we didn't like Theresa May's deal. We think that Boris Johnson's deal would be very bad.
Well, what didn't you like about it?
Economy, as does those sectors of the UK economy.
Tom, sorry, I'm asking you what you didn't like about the deal.
Well, what I didn't like about Theresa May's deal, what I don't like about Boris Johnson's deal, is that it is a hammer blow for the UK economy.
How is that?
If we have the automotive sector, the pharmaceutical sector, aerospace, food and drink, all saying Boris Johnson's deal is going to be highly damaging for our sector.
How can they say that? They haven't seen the deal yet.
Well,
what have they got, a crystal ball?
I suspect they've seen what Boris Johnson was talking about a few days ago. That is what they were commenting.
Yeah, but he's been talking about a lot. Yeah, but hang on, he's been talking about a lot of things, Tom. That doesn't mean you've seen the deal. You don't know what the deal is. You're already telling me that people are saying it's no good.
Well, I'm saying that the deal as at a couple of days ago, from which Boris Johnson may have made some changes in terms of things like the consent issue about who has to vote to continue the Northern Ireland Agreement, but that doesn't affect the economic relationship between the UK and the rest of the EU. And those businesses, those sectors which employ over 1 million people and are worth just under £100 billion to the UK economy, said that his deal, which might have changed slightly, but his deal was bad for UK jobs.
Yeah, but how can you say the deal is bad or good if you haven't seen it? I mean, I beg his belief, Tom. All you're doing now is being very transparently against any kind of deal because, as we all know, the Lib Dems want to cancel democracy and revoke Article 50 and stay in the European Union.
Mike,
that's right, isn't it?
Is reflecting to you the views of a sector that employ more than 1 million people.
I'm not interested in the views of people on something they don't know anything about, Tom. It means nothing.
All right. So that's the position we're in, that you're not willing to listen to the views of businesses that employ over 1 million people.
That's like you saying to me, no, hang on. No, Tom, no. It's like you saying to me that I should listen to the views of somebody about the weather a week on Monday. They don't know what the weather's going to be like a week on Monday, so why would I listen to what they've got to say about it?
Because what will have happened over the last couple of days is that Boris Johnson may have made some changes in relation to the consent issue, which I think is one of the stumbling blocks. But in terms of the broad brush of what has been agreed, I don't think it will have changed very much since what was...
You don't know that.
A couple of days ago. Well, let's wait and see.
Yeah, so how can you naysay it? But this is my point, Tom. How can you say that you're against the deal and loads of other people are against the deal when you don't know what it is?
Because the deal that has been discussed over the last couple of weeks has been, I suspect, is 95% of what is there.
You suspect? Okay, so you're willing. So you're willing to make Lib Dem policy on something which is a suspicion.
Well, we're 95% accurate, 5% of which might have changed in the last couple of days. And I'd love to come back on your programme in a couple of days' time when those sectors have confirmed that their understanding of his deal.
That's fine with me. We'll be in Westminster on Saturday, as indeed will you, Tom. Although I understand the Lib Dems are trying to stop that. Is that the case?
What? Stop us being here on Saturday? No,
yes.
not at all.
I thought there was a motion going through Parliament voted on today about Saturday.
Yes, but it's not to stop Saturday. It's to enable a much wider-ranging debate to take place on Saturday.
Oh, what? So you want to work more than 5 hours, you mean?
Exact opposite of trying to stop it. And I'm going to be here on Saturday, not only for Parliament, but, of course, we've got 1 million-plus people voting or marching for a people's vote on Saturday.
Excellent.
As well. So
well, come by the tent. Come by the tent of common sense, and we'd love to see you there. And then when we all know a bit more about it, I'd be very happy to listen to your criticisms of a deal that you've seen, rather than criticism of one you haven't. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, I think what we've seen, Mike,
we don't think it makes sense.
95% of the deal. What has happened in the last 24 hours or 12 hours is that 5% around the issue principally of consent and some of the issues around the Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland issue have been modified in some way. That does not affect the fundamental relationship between UK as a whole and the rest of the European Union. That's why I maintain the view that Boris Johnson's deal is one that will be highly damaging for the United Kingdom. And once we see the detail, I think I'll be able to restate that.
Yes, well, I think you'll be able to certainly correct yourself. Let me give you the honour of having the first readout ever of Boris Johnson's tweet. We've got a great new deal that takes back control. Now Parliament should get Brexit done on Saturday so we can move on to other priorities like the cost of living, the NHS, violent crime and our environment. How can you argue with that?
Well, that is not exactly the legal text associated with the deal.
I see.
So let's see.
Let's get Jolyon Moron on. Hire a few more barristers and see if we can block it in the court, shall we?
People like President Tusk has issued a very, very warm letter, as has President Juncker as well, who's now saying basically to the EU27, get on side. And I think that people who don't want to, who actually want to stop Britain leaving the European Union are now running out of excuses. And this is actually make or break time now. We'll see the detail of the deal, I'm absolutely certain, very shortly. We'll then have the opportunity, hopefully, to discuss this on Saturday. But hopefully, your listeners who want to bring all this thing to a stop now, they just want to get Britain out of the European Union on an agreed deal that is to the benefit of the UK and the EU, please get in touch with your members of Parliament and ask them to support the deal.
Now, what about this business of the confirmatory referendum, as they keep calling it? Although I object to them using that phrase, because for me, to confirm something means to confirm something that's already been voted on. So for me, a confirmatory referendum is only on leave. It doesn't have remain in it. But you might have heard, or I'm not sure if you would have done, Tom Brake talking to me just a few moments ago, in which he basically said that he's against the deal, even though he doesn't know what's in it.
No, he's against the deal because the Lib Dems basically want to revoke Article 50. That is the decision that they have taken at their party conference. They want to basically, they say openly that they are the party of Remain. So anything that comes out of Tom Brake's mouth or Joe Swinson's mouth, absolutely forget. You've even got, of course, some of the former Tory MPs like Sarah Wollaston and Heidi Allen who have joined the Liberal Democrats. Even though they stood on a ticket only a couple of years ago, basically saying that they would deliver Brexit. That was the platform, the manifesto that they fought the general election on. And now they've joined a party that openly want to stop Brexit. Well, that is not democracy. I mean, they have to drop the word democratic from the Liberal Democrats, surely, if they're to be consistent and not to be taken to some sort of trading tribunal, because it is absolutely appalling. And it's going to be critical. We've just heard from your political correspondent on the numbers. And if all these Labour MPs, who when they thought it was impossible for Boris Johnson to get a deal, were saying, well, we can't leave unless the deal has been agreed, all of a sudden turn around and say, oh, no, it's not good enough, as we've just heard that some of the voices coming from those who said that they might come on and support the deal. Quite frankly, that will be seen for what it is. It's duplicitous. If a deal has now been agreed, if Juncker's on board, if Boris is on board, then I think that is important, and they must be called out for what they are. And I have to say as well, Mike, if you're looking for what the major difference is, you had Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. He led the Leave campaign during the referendum. You had Steve Barclay, there again, a Leave campaigner. Dominic Raab, a Leave campaigner. And these were the three Secretaries of State who have helped negotiate this particular deal. So quite frankly, I believe that we've got a deal that the people who led the Leave campaign have now arranged. And therefore, as far as I am concerned, that this should now be a deal that all MPs who are Democrats, who said that they would deliver the Brexit that people voted for, not only in the referendum, but also at the general election, then they really now have to support the deal.
Exactly right. And the markets like it. The pound, believe it or not, Nigel, is at a 3-month high. It's up 0.86%, 129 against the dollar, where it hasn't been for quite some time.
Good grief. I mean, people were talking about parity to the dollar.
I know.
$1 for £1 and all that sort of stuff. Well, this is absolutely amazing news. And the other thing, of course, getting Brexit done means that we can then have a period of political stability. Yes, there's lots more to be talking about over the next couple of years. There is the future trading relationship between us and the European Union, which we will want to get absolutely right too. But I think the most important thing is let's get Brexit done and let's bring that general election on in order for us then to go on to the next stages of our future relationship, not just with the European Union, but also, of course, other countries around the world.
Of course. Let's talk to Alex Phillips from the Brexit Party. Hello, Alex.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, actually. I'm surprisingly chipper. I know that you're probably going to bring me down a few pegs and say, yeah, but hang on a minute, Mike, we don't know what the deal is. But everybody's been so focused on no deal, right? And I've said this from the beginning, that I think Boris Johnson was going to run some kind of interference and get some kind of deal. Now, yes, we don't yet know what it is. I've just had a go with Thomas Brake from the Lib Dems, because he's already against it, even though he doesn't know what's in it. But surely a deal is better than no deal, isn't it?
Oh, I wish I could say that. I am going to bring you down, I'm afraid.
I knew you would.
Basically, yeah, because look, any legal text that's been drawn up, 3 hours in a Cheshire lodge where Wayne Rooney got married is not going to solve 3 years of political deadlock, and neither are 3 days of back-to-front meetings in Brussels. So the problem is, to be able to scrub together a legal text or any form of deal, it's pretty much the same thing Theresa May had with the backstop tinkered with and renamed. And the Brexit Party have never been a fan of that. It is what I'd like to call Remain minus, and I'll try and explain why. So I'm going to do it in 4 R's.
Okay.
Number 1, Arthur reheated. Like I said, apart from the backstop, the main thrust of it is basically what Theresa May brought to Parliament 3 times and Boris himself called vassalage. The second R is for rigged. this new form of backstop, in theory, there's a vote in Stormont, so the Northern Ireland can get out of it, but it's rigged because the European Union want this done by majority voting, which means that essentially the DUP will be stitched up every single time they say, we want to stay part of the United Kingdom and their schedules and their interests rather than with Ireland and the EU, are for railroaded. Now, you keep hearing this innocuous term called the level playing field. Well, what that means is whatever the EU decide in the future on environmental policy, work policy, whatever it may be, we've got to copy. We've got to remain in step with them. Now, that sounds really nice and pleasant if people want to talk about workers' rights and this, that, and the other, but actually our standards already deviate from the EU. First of all, environmentally, we go one step further and we're a bit better than them. But when it comes to workers' rights, we're far more flexible in the workplace. We can work more hours if we want to, and actually being tied into an increasingly socialist methodology of running things, and federal Europe is not a good thing. And the final R, here you go, for number 4, is reliant. The big issue with this is there's still no proper future political agreement. So we're going to enter a transition period if this deal is passed where we don't know what we're transitioning to. Without the future trade deal agreed and negotiated, we're essentially leaving Never Never Land to go into no man's land, and we'll be reliant on the EU and trusting the EU in good faith to give us a very good trade deal, which would be in our interests as well as theirs, or we're stuck in this no man's land forever.
Well, I'm going to give you a 5th R, okay, which is rewind back to the beginning, because here's what I'm going to tell you. How do you know so much about what's in the deal? Are you supposing what's in the deal, or do you really know?
Okay, so first of all, am I supposing what's in the deal? Yes, but why do I think I know what's in there?
So you don't know?
From what I said at the start of the interview, and this is very clear, that for any sort of sensible legal text to be drawn up, it was on the basis of what is already legally agreed. The precedent which was agreed by Theresa May and Ollie Robbins. There you go. There's the other hidden 6th R, Robbins for Ollie Robbins. So
we can keep this going all day.
In that respect, the way things are done over here, it is the withdrawal agreement tweaked, and there were big flaws in the initial withdrawal agreement that I think I've just tried to lay out.
Yes, no, I've got all that, but I had the same argument with Tom Brake, so I feel as if I should have it in the interest of balance with you, because I criticised him for saying that he was against the deal, having not seen it, and I can only say the same thing to you, really, because surely...
That's spot on. Yeah.
No, and I appreciate that you're making an educated guess, which is better than his approach to it, and you may well turn out to be correct. However, I would say, and I have been saying this for the last couple of weeks as it's occurred to me, I'm a great supporter of Nigel Farage. I think what he's done for this country has been remarkable. I think the fact that we are even at this point is largely down to him as a single individual and a politician who has been most successful probably of all politicians over the last 20 years. However, I think at some point you have to say, let's look at what we can achieve. Let's look at where we can be and where we can go. And frankly, it seems to me that the dial has shifted to such an extent because people have been waiting so long that actually getting out in some way, shape or form, which can then be changed and altered later on, is better than not getting out at all and sticking where we are.
I totally agree with you on that. Actually, the text has just come out this second. My press officer has just pushed a piece of paper across the desk to let me know that, so we can all go away and bury ourselves in the mountains of paperwork and pick it apart. But no, I agree with you. Actually getting out from a position where we can hopefully increase divergence is absolutely fundamental. But like I was saying, the difficulty with this innocuous-sounding level playing field is it legally binds us. Remember that this withdrawal agreement is an international treaty, so it legally binds us for futurity with no escape from the things therein. And one of the things that's been agreed on that we know about, that's been publicly said by both sides, is a commitment to the level playing field, which means that for futurity, the UK is going to be beholden to whatever the EU decides is the way that the EU should run. We're going to have to mirror it. And that, for me, is the biggest problem. If I felt that this was a starting point, and it wasn't an international treaty, it was a basic divorce agreement, we pay you some money, and from now on, this is how we're going to go about things. But look, hey, there's probability for future divergence. I could stomach it. I could live with it. But the difficulty is it's illegal. They're talking about legal text. It is an international treaty. This is a done and dusted document. That then goes into the annals of history, and we have to live by it.
Yeah, but we've been dealing with these legal activities for the best part of the last 3 years, and I don't think one of them has not been broken without really any kind of problem whatsoever. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I would rather see you guys helping this to happen rather than hindering it, because I think the great British public have now got to the point where they want our politicians of this country and in Europe to just do something. And if you manage to be part of the blocking of this bill from going through, of this deal from happening, I don't think they'll forgive you lot either.
Well, I agree. Look, I agree with you there. We've been helping from the beginning. I mean, if it wasn't for the presence of Nigel Farage and the Brexiteers on his side of things, I don't think we'd have had a referendum. And we've arguably kept Conservative feet to the fire. If it wasn't for the Brexit Party, I'm fairly certain Theresa May would be Prime Minister, and a hopeless withdrawal agreement that failed to pass through Parliament 3 times would be in place. We'd be locked in a, satellite state of the EU for futurity. But what I'm saying is this: we can't say Brexit at any cost. We can't turn around and say, yes, good, it's been so frustrating, we finally got there, but then realise that what we've bought into is a worse form of membership, where there's not even a seat at the table, and yet we're having to live under EU laws still.
Yeah, but you're looking at it from a worst-case scenario, right, which I'm not sure it's going to be. You've said you've just got the text there. I don't suppose you can have a quick glance at it and see if there's anything you can pull out of it. But, I haven't...
the message on the table saying the text exists. I haven't pulled it out yet, but no, we do need to go away and read that for sure.
Well, maybe we need to get you back on in a couple of hours' time. But the bottom line is, though, for me, I've been urging people to be positive. I've been urging people to be optimistic about the future. There's a great many things that Britain is great at, and a great many things that we will be even better at once we're out of the European Union. And I just think it's time now to stop shilly-shallying, to stop messing about, and to just get out.
I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. And like you,
Except you're going to stop it, though.
No. Well, no, look, I don't have any position to stop it, remember. I'm an MEP in the Europe. Actually, I do. I can vote against it in the European Parliament. But no, look, what I'm saying is this, and I'm a pragmatist. I'm an optimist, absolutely. And like you say, there's so much that Britain can do once we're outside of this place. That is my fundamental reason for being a Brexiteer. But the problem is, and I haven't read the legal text yet, but it's on a very sort of educated basis I'm making this, putting out this warning, if the withdrawal agreement stops us from doing all those things we want to do as an independent nation, and actually there's not even an exit clause, like at least there supposedly is for leaving the European Union, then we're out of the frying pan and into the fire, basically. So what I'm saying is this: we have to be mindful of what is in that, because it's an international treaty, and as soon as I heard the term level playing field, the hairs on the back of my neck went up, because I thought this is basically being a rule taker from the EU, and that is not what I voted Brexit for. OK, well, let's see. What happens to you guys now? Because presumably part of the deal will be that you retreat from Brussels as MEPs, don't you? Well, if it gets passed in Parliament, if finally we leave as a member state of the EU, then, yeah, I'm out of a job, which is what I've been hoping to be now for 3 months. And if it comes to it, and will you be asked as MEPs to vote on this? Yeah. No, it is. So actually, even if the deal gets through, we're going to, I think what I understand is there'll be some sort of indicative vote in Parliament on Saturday, because the legal text hasn't been fully processed or analysed. So being able to 100% vote it down in the Commons and be scrutinised in the Lords and all of that passage, I think is unlikely before the 31st of October. But even when all of that is done, it then has to bounce back for the final seal of approval from the Brussels side of things in the European Parliament. And this is where things could get interesting, because previously nation-states have been very able to whip their MEPs inside the European Parliament. But in the latest European elections, 60% of that European Parliament are brand new MEPs. And believe me, when I sit in that chamber week in, week out, they don't want us to leave. So let's see if this deal traverses the House of Commons and the Lords and gets signed off on the British side, whether it can then be signed off by the European Parliament here. Because with the likes of Guy Verhofstadt leading, being the voice for the European Parliament in these negotiations, remember, who is an ardent federalist, who makes it very clear he wants to stop Brexit, there are still many more hurdles to go. Let's talk to some of you and get your views on it. Colin is in Glasgow. Hi, Colin.
Hi, Mike. Pleasure to talk to you.
Very great pleasure for me as well. What do you want to say?
My view is that this deal could have been a lot better if it wasn't for the UK Parliament. If it wasn't for the Lib Dems, Labour, SNP, we could have got a lot better deal, because every time they've tried to stop Brexit, and if it wasn't for them, we could have had an even better deal. And Boris, he's came in, everything what he said would be done. They said that they couldn't renegotiate it. He has. Yeah. He says that just everything that he said, he's actually done, because there's so many things he said that he's actually done. So he has to do this deal. we could never get rid of this Parliament unless, in fact, we still couldn't get rid of this Parliament, this Remain Parliament that's against democracy. It's the only way to do it is to do this deal, and then we get a general election, and then we can get rid of these anti-democrats.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Well, because here's the thing, Colin. Boris Johnson has done everything that everyone said he couldn't do, right?
Yeah.
I think he's done a brilliant job. Absolutely great. Colin, great call. Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk to Ian, who is in Redford, I think. Hello, Ian.
Hi, Mike. Nice to speak to you.
Nice to speak to you. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much indeed. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I've just been listening to the fact that Boris has managed to get a deal over the line. I think that, if you can get the DUP to agree and the EU to agree, then I think he's entering in sort of miracle territory, really.
I think he is.
Credit for doing that.
And I think he will get. I think he will get the DUP on board, because I think they're just hanging around for a little bit more of an incentive, if you know what I mean. A few more kind of breaks, a few more grants, a few more kind of pieces of political influence, and they come on board. And then he only really needs to make sure that the 15 of the 21 Tories that have lost the whip come back on board, and then he gets maybe 9 Labour MPs. It could all happen. It could all go through on Saturday.
I really hope it does. And I heard what the Brexit Party, spokesman said, and I just think that was... And I expected it, but in reality, I know what she's saying about sort of getting tied into regulations and everything. But, in a global economy, if you want to be part of that, you have to accept regulatory alignment anyway. So whether it's part of a political agreement or whether it's part of a trade agreement, if you're going to export and have expansive, wide coverage, to other countries in the world and expect to be as, sort of international as possible, as the Brexit Party say they want to be, then they're going to have to accept regulatory alignment anyway, because it just means that, you'll make things to, the standard
and
that
also,
they're
I think,
expecting.
Ian, I think what we've learned over the last 3 years as well is you don't get everything that you'd like to get. As much as you should try and hold out for it as long as you can, there comes a time when you just have to go, right, we're going to go with this.
Yeah. I agree. I think we've got. He's got the. If you can get the DUP on board, I think they're going to be brave parliamentarians that vote against this deal and try and vote it down, because I think there'll be hell to pay. Because I think everybody now just wants to get out, and if the DUP agree, the EU agree, we need to get on with it and start sort of rowing our own boat. And will there be compromises? Yeah, they will. But we'll be out, and then once we're out, we can sort of do what we need to, and everybody can move on, and we can go with the domestic policy and everything else. I voted leave. I wanted to leave. I was, heard all the rhetoric about the Theresa May deal, but actually I would have voted for that, because I thought, at the end of the day, at least it gets us out.
Right.
I was quite happy with no deal. If we couldn't do a deal that was acceptable to everybody, then that's the way that we'd have to go. I was quite happy to sort of go that direction as well.
Absolutely right.
But yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, the Lib Dem reaction to this, because if they're still staunch Remain when the EU's agreed a deal, and the people are pushing for a deal, and DUP have agreed it, then if they're going to still stand the ground and not want to go ahead with that, I think they're going to be really brave. And the same goes for Labour as well. But I think a lot of Labour people, where there is a deal, I hope they'll see sense and they'll come on board.
Labour have already said they're not going to back it. Labour have said they're not going to back it, but they may back it in part. It may well be that some rebels back it, and of course the Lib Dems won't back it because they don't want to leave anyway. But Ian, great call. Thanks very much. Daniel's in Epsom. Hi, Daniel.
Mike, how you doing?
Very well, mate. Very well indeed. It's a good day, this.
It's a good day, but just hearing that the EU are happy with it makes me suspicious.
I thought you might say that.
I'll tell you who's crying at her desk right now, Jo Swinson, right?
Yeah.
Because just at the time she made her party a single-issue party, basically, it's no longer irrelevant. It's irrelevant now. It's no longer...
To be honest, if you are the party of Remain, right, and you want to stay in the European Union when they've already basically agreed that we leave, what's the point of that?
Exactly. I mean, the Brexit Party would disappear. I'd imagine most of the support for the Liberal Democrats will as well, because they've made themselves a single-issue party right at the time when it's no longer important. And whoever's the tactician for the Lib Dems needs... I'll tell you what we need now, Mike. We need a general election, and we need to drain the swamp, as Donald Trump would say. We need to get rid of these people that have been frustrating Brexit, that have been conspiring against Brexit. I want Grieve and Hammond, all of them put out to pasture.
Yeah, I agree totally with you, because the point of all of this is that the European Union has agreed a deal with the British government. Everybody else can get lost, quite frankly. And as I said earlier, what business is it of parties that want to remain in the European Union to negotiate how we go? No, thanks.
Yeah, well, we've already decided that we're going, so almost their opinion is kind of immaterial. It's no longer wanted. We are leaving the European Union. I am a bit suspicious that, you know, this regulatory alignment and level playing field, for me, the whole idea was that we can deregulate a bit in certain areas and we can be quite dynamic, and we haven't really got to worry about aligning with the EU anymore. I don't know. That worries me somewhat, because it is a treaty. It's not a deal. You have to understand that, and you are tied in. But it's at least it's a plus.
Yeah, but you don't know what you're tied into yet, so you might be tied into a series of things which can change, which is entirely possible. Daniel, great call. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to talk to Bob Seely now, Conservative MP for the Isle of Wight. I don't think he's seen the deal yet. Let's talk about what the deal could be and whether the DUP will sign up. Bob, very good morning to you.
Hi, morning, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well. I'm very happy, actually. I mean, I didn't know that this would be so kind of joyous, but it really feels quite joyous.
Well, it feels positive just that there is a deal. Nobody's seen any details of it, and I'm afraid I don't know the details any more than you, so I'll wait and see what's in it. The ERG folks that I was chatting to yesterday seem to be quite positive, but they want to see the detail of it as well. Slightly concerning that the DUP are saying no at the moment. They haven't closed the door to changing their minds. I'm looking at their statements, but it's not great that they're not signing up. Boris needs 30. He needs to change 30 votes to get it through the House.
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, though, would you, if the DUP is kind of holding out for what we might call a few more inducements, shall we say?
I don't know, and it'll be nice to get them on board, because I think people, if they're on board, I think the probability becomes you get it through. There are 10 DUP. There's about 35 ERG, so Conservative no dealers. And then there are 21 of us who lost the whip because they were against the no deal, or 21 Conservatives.
But they've already been offered a bit of an olive branch, haven't they?
I think so, and I think most of them will come on board. I don't think people like Dominic Grieve will, but whatever. And I think then there's a dozen to 15 Labour MPs who may end up holding the key if the DUP don't come on side.
Yeah.
If the DUP come on side, the DUP and the ERG should get us over the line, but let's see.
Yeah, and I'm told that there will be people. I mean, I'm saying Lisa Nandy's name only because when I spoke to her, she told me that she was sorry she hadn't voted for Theresa May's deal. She's got a 70% Leave constituency. If she doesn't vote for this, she's out at the next election.
I think the Labour Party are going to be in big trouble come the next election anyway, because they've made a commitment to respect the manifesto, to respect the results of the referendum. They did so to avoid being hammered at the last election, and it's quite clear that many MPs actually didn't mean that, and I think people are pretty fed up about that.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, let's talk about Dominic Grieve once more, because, I mean, this is a guy who would have said that he was going to commit to respecting the result of the referendum. Not only does he not do that, but he's actively campaigning in Brussels yesterday with David Lammy against leaving the union.
Yeah, I know it's not good. I mean, I'm all for people having individual opinions. I think it's really important that you have outspoken people, and that we have Parliament which is full of robust individuals and not party hacks. But on this issue, it's so profound and goes to the heart of our democracy that you have to vote. You know, if you stood on an electoral manifesto commitment to respect the results of the referendum, you have to do that. Otherwise, I just think this is a single and one-off issue which is so critical to the future of our country and trust in politics that actually saying that you're not going to respect your manifesto commitments is just wrong.
Also, as I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 weeks now, we have moved to a new place. This is not March anymore, where people were a little bit more kind of robustly defending the terms of which we would leave under. Now we're at a point where I think an awful lot of people in the country just want something to be done, and if everything isn't quite perfect and all the ducks don't quite line up, I don't think people are going to be that worried.
I think there is a massive desire for a deal of any kind, frankly, preferably one that is better than the last one. Me personally, I think there are so many things that we need to be talking about. The world is changing at a very fast pace. 5G and Chinese high tech is a massive issue for us. There's huge issues with NHS and education and police. In my own patch, I want to get a deal that recognises the Isle of Wight as an island, like the Scottish Islands.
Yeah.
And I need Parliament to be able to debate these issues and not be utterly constipated, pardon my French, by Brexit.
No, quite. And let's talk a little bit about the Constitution. And I know that I'm not going to rely on you for being a constitutional expert, and I don't mean that as an insult.
Very wise of you.
But here's the thing.
That's very sensible.
Is it possible, for example, I mean, an awful lot of people are saying on the Labour and Lib Dem side that they would vote for this. I got Tom Brake to admit that he would vote for this deal if it was attached to a second referendum. So he's not concerned, and neither are the Lib Dems, about the content of the deal. They just want to have a second referendum. The polls suggest that the second referendum would be 54 to 46 in favour of leave, right? So maybe what would be the harm of having a second referendum? I know it's against all of our principles, everything we said we wouldn't do.
But this is not a question of we'll have a second referendum if we can win it. Yeah, there is a principle here that we said, Parliament collectively said, right, we will give the vote, the final say to the British people, and we will respect the result, and it will be a once-in-a-lifetime vote. And I think if you start watering that down, I just think it's a bad move. And look, we know the Liberals have said we want a second referendum, and if we don't like the outcome, we won't respect it. I mean, the Liberals on this issue, they're neither liberal nor democratic.
No, quite. What about this then? What about this then? Because my fear is that there's going to be barristers lining up, two to a dozen, or 10 to a dozen, trying to figure out ways of conspiring to kind of frustrate this whole deal process because they don't want to leave.
I'm sure that Ben and Oliver Letwin and Gina, whatever she's called, I'm sure their lawyers and their finest minds are doing everything they can to try to scupper the process. That's why if we can vote for the deal and if we can get ourselves out in the next few weeks and preferably by the 31st, we're done. We can
How about this for a double cross, right? How about you go along with the second referendum, you tack it onto the bill, you have an election, kick out loads of the Remainers, you get back in with a bigger majority, and you just cancel it.
Well, you could do that, but I think that's acting in bad faith. And having just said the importance of obeying the critical bits of a manifesto that you give to the people of this country, for me then to stand around and say, and we're going to be sort of super tricky about how we deal with this, no, I think that's
but this is like playing the Australians at rugby, Bob. They're not playing fair, so I don't think by playing fair you're going to beat them.
Well, I disagree with that. I think that we need to play fair, but we also need to play smart. So playing fair doesn't mean walking into traps. Playing fair and actually trying to win means respecting the rules, but playing hard within those rules. And if I have a criticism of the previous government, I think we just allowed ourselves to be pushed around. Certainly Theresa did by people within her own cabinet, like the Chancellor, which wasn't great. That's why I think there's a determination now with Boris, with his government, that we're going to really try to get this through, and I think it will be very, very close on Saturday. I think the DUP not coming on side so far isn't great, but let's see. But I think we might be nearly there, and it all depends what happens with the Labour Party. But let's see.
What's your take on it?
Well, I haven't seen the deal.
Neither's he.
So I haven't seen the details yet. But obviously, the fact that the EU have signed off with the Prime Minister the deal means that Ireland are happy with it. So the Irish dimension, which was the biggest stumbling block, at least part of those objections have been dealt with. But the DUP are still a big stumbling block for the Prime Minister. Labour, I think, is captured either by its conference policy, which is looking both ways, or as Jeremy says, the pressure on a confirmatory referendum to be attached to it. And there were people on the Labour benches, as there are in other parties, the SNP, Lib Dems, who don't respect Brexit, and they will do everything to block it. So it doesn't matter what kind of deal the government comes back with. There are people in Parliament who just won't vote for it.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Now, Boris Johnson has told the EU and the negotiators over there that he believes he's got the numbers. Do you think he can get the numbers without the DUP? Because there might be enough Labour voters, Labour MPs rather, who will go along with it.
Well, there are a number of Labour MPs who are sympathetic towards getting a deal. We've got the group MPs for a deal, and 19 Labour MPs last week signed a letter to the European Commission saying we want a deal. Many of them are under quite a lot of pressure. Labour commentators and the media are calling for their expulsion if they vote for the deal. I'm not sure how the numbers pan out yet, because the Prime Minister has got to get the vast majority of the 21 Conservatives he expelled from his party when they voted against him last time. He's got to persuade others in the House who are now sitting as independents. As you say, he's got to get Labour MPs on side. Whether he can withstand losing the DUP, those number crunching efforts will be going on all over the place today, tomorrow, and approach to Saturday.
And what about people like yourself, Jim, and Lisa Nandy and others? I mean, she said to me in the past that she would vote for a deal, she was sorry she hadn't voted for Theresa May's deal. She's also got a constituency which voted 70% to leave, so it's in her personal interest to vote for the deal, isn't it?
Well, obviously, every single MP is approaching this on the basis of what they think is in the best interest of the country. Only 5 of us voted for Prime Minister May's deal on the 29th of March. Several have subsequently said they wish they had joined us and voted for it. So those 5, if they hold the same view, once they get a chance to see Prime Minister Johnson's deal, and if several others come forward, then there could be between 10 and 20 Labour MPs who might vote for the deal. There might be some who will abstain, which obviously will impact on the numbers. But the Prime Minister really has got to get all of his support lined up to be able to persuade Labour MPs that actually this could be the end of this phase. Because remember, this is only the threshold withdrawal agreement. There are going to be several years of detailed negotiations for all of the aspects, but it's about getting this part over the line so that we can move on. And I think that's what most people in the country want to see.
Well, I'm going to say this to you now, Jim. I think those who are against leaving the European Union are now looking sort of worse than useless, sort of chocolate fireguard style, because nobody's interested in what they've got to say. They've lost. The Leavers have won. What would your message be to people like that, to the Lib Dems, to people in the Tory and the Labour Party who are banging on about trying to stay in?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't criticise colleagues for the views that they sincerely and genuinely hold, Mike. People. The vast majority of MPs are approaching this with a lot of concern, a lot of stress, a lot of heart-searching, soul-seeking. This is a very difficult decision for MPs all over the place. People will arrive at a position which, in their conscience, they think is the right one to do. The tempers boiling over in the Commons 2 weeks ago was a manifestation of the frustration that people are feeling here. And much as we were discussing earlier on about the violence at Canning Town Station, tempers get frayed and people do and say things that, in normal circumstances they wouldn't. But I wouldn't criticise them for holding sincere views. I just hope that we can get this deal over the line and that the country can move on, because we need that consistency. We need that certainty to allow business to do its job.
Yes, but what we also need, Jim, and I appreciate you don't want to criticise colleagues, but what we also need is for these people to stop wasting parliamentary time, stop wasting time in the courts, stop chasing effectively shadows, and accept that we're leaving. It's as simple as that, really.
No, and I accept that. I understand that, and it's a point of view which I hold myself. But for some people, every delay that they can introduce into the system, every way that they can prevent Brexit from actually happening, strengthens the prospect that they can actually derail Brexit and prevent it entirely. So. And you can see the way that public opinion and political opinion moves about whether to support a second referendum, a confirmatory vote, whether that's the way out of it. Sometimes that's got a lot of support. And so far in Parliament, no proposition has ever commanded a majority of support. So if Prime Minister Johnson does get this over the line, then that will be the first time Parliament's agreed on anything to do with Brexit since supporting revoking Article 50 2 years ago.
Let's talk to Mark, who's in Castleford. Hi, Mark.
Morning, Mike.
Morning.
Actually, it might be afternoon by now.
Actually, so you're right. Time has flown so quickly. We're in a whole new era already.
Hasn't it just? I hate to put the dampener on this, Mike. I don't think this will get past Parliament. I think Parliament will not vote for it, but I think Boris Johnson might just have something up his sleeve.
Well, I've been saying that he's had something up his sleeve all along.
Well, I think what he might have done is he might have done an agreement with the European Union where basically say we are unwilling to extend, so you vote for this or you have to vote for no deal.
Well, he's already, as Charlotte just told us, he's told the European Union he doesn't want an extension. He's not going to ask for one because the Benn Act, technically, although Charlotte differs from me on this, says that, he has to ask for an extension if, in fact, he can't get a deal.
Yeah, and I just think he's done a bit of pre-work on it, Mike. I don't think he can go into this naked, as it were,
No.
you know. And I think what it is, it's high noon now as well, so that everybody has to get off the fence, really. And I suspect Parliament, what they'll try to do, I think they'll attempt to say, OK, if we do pass this, it's subject to, as you suggested, a confirmatory referendum.
Yes, I don't like calling it that, though, because as I've always said, if you want to confirm something, that means something has already been had a decision made upon it. Now, the only thing they can confirm in that sense is how we leave, not whether we remain.
And I suppose, Mike, there's only one thing. If it does go to that, maybe we should say, OK, well, Leave won by 52 to 48. Maybe the next one, they should start at 52 and Remain should start at 48. And then, right, OK, so they're already 4 points ahead. So you've got to make that up if we're going to have a second confirmatory referendum.
Yes. And
that
it looks
might
at
be
the
a way
moment,
around it.
well, at the moment, it certainly looks as though, although Bob Seely made a good point, he didn't think that was what we should do because we vowed to honour the result of the first referendum as the only one, the one chance in a generation for us to vote on leaving the European Union. And there's no reason for us to have another one at all. However, the latest poll, which was done for Channel 5 yesterday, shows that Leave has gone up to 54.
Wow, I didn't know it had gone up to that. Yeah, and I think it's still very, very close. As I understand it, Leave seems to be just a few points ahead. But it's Parliament, Mike. It keeps coming back to this all the time. It's Parliament. And in particular, Mike, throughout the whole of this, it's what the Speaker allows. Had he not allowed that amendment in March, we'd have actually left under Theresa May's
Well, exactly.
deal,
Well, if she hadn't had the election, which she then lost her majority in, we would have left as well. But the bottom line for me is, Mark, that these people are going to have to stop playing games. You know, the Lib Dems are going to have to stop trying to pretend that we all want to remain, because we don't. The Labour Party is going to have some kind of policy which is in fact coherent. And, of course, the Speaker is going to have to do the bidding of the Parliament itself and allow the government to get it done. We've now got an agreement with the European Union. It's not as if they've said, you know, we want you to stay. They want us to go.
Yeah, and I think Boris is trying to push them out, Mike, and give him the credit. He's actually got the deal, which everybody's saying he wasn't going to go for a deal. He was just looking for a no deal.
Oh, yeah, because he's a massive liar. You know, all of these lefties going, oh, he's a liar, he can't be trusted, he's going to get us out without a deal. We're going to make sure we lock him into all these legal principles, and we're going to handcuff him with lawsuits from Edinburgh to London. You know, it was all unnecessary.
Yeah, Mike, I think as well, it's... And Bob Seely intimated at it there, and so did the previous chap. Is it Jim Fitzpatrick?
Jim Fitzpatrick,
I think this hangs or falls. I suspect that Parliament won't pass it, but I think it hangs or falls on those Labour MPs that are in heavy Leave seats. I think that's the crux of the issue now, and it's the pressure that will be brought to bear upon them. Unless, as I say, I mean, I have a suspicion Boris will... Although he won't ask for an extension, I have a suspicion Europe might already say, no, we're not going to give you an extension. Yeah. You vote for this. And that way, it forces the whole damn thing to be resolved one way or the other.
Exactly right. And I think we are well on the way to it being resolved. I have to tell you that, Mark. Let's talk to Shirley in Birmingham. Hi, Shirley.
Yeah, hi, Mike. My worry about the deal is that there's an agreement that we will support the euro if it fails.
Why would we do that?
That's an agreement they've written into the deal.
How do you know that?
Well, an MP said so, one of the Brexit MPs.
Really? Well, I'd be very surprised about that, because I don't see why we would support a currency which is in an economic region that we are not part of.
Well,
and you can't, you know me, Shirley, I'm willing to take you at face value, but not MPs. Many MPs will say things which are not true.
Yeah, but if it's true...
Which MP was it?
Oh, I don't know his name. One of the Brexit MPs.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. I will hold my fire on that until I see whether that's true. It doesn't sound right to me.
No. So, and also we've got the freedom of movement. Will we be able to stop that under the deal?
Well, I would have thought so, because Priti Patel has already talked about doing a special outside of the European Union deal with the French to stop the people coming across the channel.
Well, they're not the problem, though, are they? We've got Albanians.
Well, of course they're the problem. Well, but the point is Albania is not part of the European Union, right? So if we've got Albanians in this country, they're here in many ways illegally. So we just have to get better at stopping illegal immigration.
And Brexit happened because the white working class, ordinary people, are having problems with the East Europeans who are here. It's not a nice thing to say.
Well, I would say that's a part of it, but it's not the reason most people voted to leave the European Union. It's the reason some people voted to leave the European Union.
But we need to come out and not still be trapped in there.
Yeah, but also you can't make a blanket statement about Eastern Europeans. I mean, there are plenty of people working in London that I know who are from Eastern Europe, who are perfectly law-abiding citizens, who are perfectly good people, who pay their taxes, and who are a great contributor to this nation.
It's a tricky one because here in Birmingham, the white working class have moved out of areas.
Right. Well, I mean, they're entitled to move wherever they want to, surely. I mean, let's not worry about that. I mean, that's not the reason people voted to leave the European Union. If it was the reason, then it was just one of very many reasons. Tony's in Liverpool. Let's talk to him. Hello, Tony.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning. How you doing, man?
I've got to be honest, cards on the table. I prefer no deal, but I can see this going through on Saturday. I think Boris will obviously give a few quid more to the DUP for Northern Ireland, which is clearly what they're angling for.
Yeah.
The Tory rebels will probably have the whip restored if they vote.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about that.
Yep, and then obviously the Labour MPs and Leave It constituencies are absolutely terrified of an election without a Brexit deal being done. So, I mean, there's a lot of bluster, a lot of hand-wringing from the Remainers, but essentially the game is up.
I think you're right.
If this doesn't go through, then we're going to go through an extension, a general election, the obliteration of the Labour Party in the north, the Midlands, South Wales, the Brexit Party and the Tory Party forming a non-aggression pact, and they'll just sweep the board, and then we're looking at no deal then.
And then they might walk out without a deal, that's the point. But the thing is, also, they might not actually do that, because presumably if they can change the arithmetic inside the House of Commons with an election, they can just reheat the deal and put it through.
Yeah, but quite possibly, but the fly in the ointment for Remain all along has been the Ben Act is only a transient act, because obviously in the event that we agree a deal, it's null and void. We go beyond the hour of the Ben Act being implemented, then it's obviously null and void again. So no deal's back on the table. All it's done is delay. The Ben Act is simply just another mechanism of delay.
Yes.
So once Boris gets either a deal or we go to an election, then no deal's back on the table. Then you've got that pact. You've got obviously the Labour voters in the North, the Midlands, South Wales who feel betrayed by the Labour Party, as we're seeing today. And then you've got that pact between the Tories and the Brexit Party. They'll just sweep the board, mate.
Yeah,
they will sweep.
They will.
So this is as good as it gets.
Oh no, absolutely. But the Remainers are going to have to. The Remainers are going to have to put up or shut up. They're going to have to say to each other, "The game is up. It's lost. If you want to campaign to get back in, that's one thing. But we're not going to campaign any longer to remain in the European Union. Don't even say the word anymore. Don't even call yourself a Remainer, because it's done. It's dusted. It's over. You know what I mean?"
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. This is it now. It's been smoke and mirrors, but we've all known that the Ben Act was more of a safety blanket, a bit of a lifeboat for Remainers to think that they were actually going to stop this. They're not going to stop it. If this doesn't go through on Saturday, it gets worse for Remainers, because no deal is right back in the rear-view mirror.
Exactly. Well, let's call it the Has-Ben Act, Tony, from now on, and see how that goes. Let's talk to Paul Scully, who is, of course, Tory MP, Deputy Chairman of the party. Paul, very good afternoon to you.
Hi, afternoon, Mike.
Now, this is a great day, isn't it? Starts out in Canning Town, ends up in Brussels. You know, what more could you ask for?
Well, exactly. It's really interesting because, as you say, you got it right. There's a lot of people who are saying that Boris wouldn't be able to get a deal, and he has. He's come back. He's managed to get them to reopen the withdrawal agreement. He's got a new political declaration for Northern Ireland, and a lot of people said that it couldn't be done. Well, certainly here we are, and it can. There's still plenty of road to go.
Yeah.
We can get this through Parliament, clearly, but things are. It's a good day.
And we're definitely on the road. I mean, Boris has told the EU basically that he believes he's got the numbers to get it through Parliament. He's also said that he's not going to ask for an extension. How do you see that playing out in terms of the numbers? I mean, I've been saying I think the DUP will probably hop on board with one or two more kind of inducements, whichever way you want to put that. If he gets the 21 back and he gets maybe half a dozen or a dozen Labour MPs, he's done it, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's been speaking to the DUP right the way through this process, and the last couple of days they've had a lot of talk. So I expect that to continue. because I think everybody in Parliament needs to know now that this is the deal that's on the table. We can't keep coming back and asking for other bits and bobs and this big long shopping list. We've got to get this done. This is what's here. It's this or it's going to be no deal.
And we've heard already from Nigel Farage, who's not that keen on the deal. He's wanting a general election. He's actually asking for an extension in what has to be the biggest turn-up of the day.
Well, exactly. I mean, we've got to stop playing politics with this at the end of the day. People are still looking at their own interests. This is the deal that's going to allow us to leave in an orderly fashion. It then means that we are all leaving as one country together on 31st of October. Northern Ireland will be coming with us. It's not a pick and choose as has been suggested by others. And so it's the best deal for the country, and that's what's important. It's not what's important for each party.
And what do you make of Jeremy Corbyn's reaction to it, basically saying, without having seen the details, his words, they're not going to vote for it? He's not even said whether he's now going to push for the second referendum, which is what they said just the other day.
Well, this is the dark thing, because to be fair, I'm reading the detail as we go through it now, but I know it's an improvement on where I've already settled to and been happy to vote in the past. So I'm confident that I can vote for this quite happily. For Jeremy Corbyn, though, he's a guy that has said he's predominantly voting against it just because it's got Conservatives label on it. Basically, it's a Conservative Prime Minister that is putting forward. Again, it's not something. He's not acting in the country's best interest. He's just acting in very, very narrow political interest.
And also, you've got the Lib Dems, who have actively campaigned to remain and have been consistent in that, which I've taken my hat off to them for, but now surely have to come around to a different way of thinking, because it's no longer the case that they can campaign for remain. We've got a deal. If it goes through Parliament, they have to change tack, don't they?
Well, very much so. Very much. This is do or die for them. Funnily enough, they've backed themselves into a corner, and I know my neighbour Tom Brake, his constituents voted to leave, and he's just been head in the sand over the last 3 years, ignoring everything that they've been telling him.
He told me this morning when we had him on, because we were able to break the news to him that there was a deal, right, which was fantastic. And I'm afraid he went the wrong way on it and said that they wouldn't vote for it. I said, well, hang on, you haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah, well, this is the extraordinary thing. Again, it's narrow party political interest.
Yeah.
Boris has got, against all odds, he's got something that is going to be good for this country. It's allowing us to do the trade deal, leave the EU justice and legal framework, and take back control. And that's exactly what people charged us to do 3 years ago. And finally, we've got something on the table that we should, hopefully, with more conversations over the next couple of days, get through Parliament, and finally we can get out of this and start talking about all the domestic agenda and the things that people that are busy cooking eggs really want us to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so, I mean, what sort of work is going to have to happen between now and Saturday? I'm told that the session is a 9:30 to 2:30 session. Is that still the case?
I believe so, yes. Well, we've got to get it. First of all, we've got to get that voted on. We will have a vote shortly. If we haven't done so already, I'm sitting up in my office because there's some people who don't want to be sitting on a Saturday extraordinarily. I mean, you had Anna Soubry tweeting yesterday that I don't see why we need to sit on a Saturday, having just been supporting a court case getting us back to Parliament.
I know. So, it's great, isn't it? You couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, I don't particularly want to sit in a tent on College Green on Saturday, but we'll be there too.
Hopefully you can come and keep me company.
Yeah, come and talk to us, right?
I'll pop over and see you.
But it's got to be done. But surely it's quite a short session, isn't it, for such a long debate and such a crucial vote?
Yeah, but there'll be more detail later on. I mean, at the end of the day, people have got time to read this over the next few days, and so much of what we've there's no point. You don't need to talk about the whole agreement because there's chunks of it that are similar to stuff that we've debated ad infinitum over the last year or so. But specifically, the specific changes, that's what we need to focus on. And, fine, scrutinise that. Let's debate that. Let's have a few hours talking about that. And then we'll do the rest of the enabling stuff over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So there's still going to be plenty of time to go through this before it's all done and dusted.
Now, I have actually got a copy of the document, but unfortunately, as I've been on the radio, I haven't had a chance to read it through yet. Have you had a chance to look at it? Can you assuage anybody's worries or doubts? We've had a few callers saying we're worried that it's going to be not much more than Theresa May's deal, reheated and changed a little bit here, there and everywhere. What can you tell us?
Well, the fact of the matter, the big difference with this is, I actually voted for Theresa May's deal, as you know, because it allowed us to be able to regain sovereignty. It allowed us to have a fairer immigration system, ending freedom of movement, and it allowed us to start doing the trade deals, but not ratify them and implement them. This actually, because Northern Ireland will be leaving with us, we will all be in one UK customs union, not an EU customs union.
Okay.
And we'll be leaving the single market as well. It will allow us to do those trade deals. So it's actually added one of the extra things that I voted to leave to achieve. And, I hope people will come along with us on this because it is best for the country.
Well, just to prove that, certainty is better than uncertainty, the pound went up massively today as well by a whole cent. I mean, it's up to 1.29 on the dollar, I think it was about an hour ago. Anyway, I'm not sure where it is now. But, that just shows you how sensible and kind of, cautious policy and a deal helps Britain.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the thing is about this is that it doesn't. The form of Brexit is less disruptive than the uncertainty around anything actually happening at all for business. They are crying out just to get this done, to get it wrapped up. And then they can plan for whatever is in front of them. But not knowing what's in front of them makes it really difficult to invest further across the UK and for developing their businesses and for international companies coming to the UK. So it's that certainty that this deal will give us and that sort of soft landing rather than soft Brexit that will allow us that transition phase to allow businesses to plan over the next couple of years. That's going to enable us to make this a success story.
Yeah, and also because of the way that the deal's been done, it's been amicable, it's been difficult, and they said it would be, but after all of the kind of bad blood between the UK, some politicians and the European Union and some of their representatives, it's all kind of come out okay in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said 3 years ago that the EU, and a lot of people did as well, that the EU tend to do things at the 11th hour. Well, we are at the 11th hour. I think it was pretty well 11 o'clock this morning that they announced the deal. And here we are. So we followed the pattern that wasn't allowed to play out back in March when we were supposed to leave at that point. If we'd kept on going, pushing that point, I still think we could have got something then. But here we are. We've got a deal. As you say, it's been amicable. There's been a lot of noises off in the press because people do need to clearly, have their success stories that they can go back to their domestic audiences and talk about. But here we are. That's something that's good for the UK. It's good for the EU. And let's crack on and get it done now.
Simon in Orpington. Let's see what he has to say. Simon, a very good afternoon to you. What do you reckon?
Mike, good to speak with you. Right, I can see why reasonable people on both sides are pleased an agreement has been reached.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. And based on what your two guest backs were saying, it's definitely better than or superior than Mrs May's deal.
Yeah.
Because we can go about actually doing these deals, new trade deals, and getting those ratified. I think an issue, though, and I understand a lot of people are suffering Brexit fatigue, and I would be one of them, but we've got to understand it's only a withdrawal agreement. It's the manner in which we leave. Really, all it is a transition period. So we leave in name, but we're still sort of acting as if we're there.
Right.
The destination...
Now, do you remember what I said the other day? I said that we will probably be redefining the word leave, which is kind of what's going to happen.
I think so, yeah. But I think, here's the confusion. I think the political declaration is where we want to end up, which is a free trade agreement. But the EU aren't going to have that incentive to give us a free trade agreement because while we're in transition, we're paying into them. We're still fairly closely aligned in many areas, so we can't sort of make use of our competitive advantage. I don't think the second referendum lot will ever go away.
No, they won't. They will never give up, will they?
So, Mike, this isn't... I'm afraid to say, I wish it was the end of it. I really do, but I don't think this is the end of it at all.
Oh, no, I don't. I'm not happy because this is the end. I'm happy because this is the beginning of the next phase. And that's where I'm sort of encouraged because I've wanted to get here for a long time. And we should have got here a long time ago. And now we are here. Of course, it's going to take a bit longer to actually leave and be completely detached. But that's fine with me.
Yeah, fine. No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is we might have a little bit of a respite for a year and a half. Then it starts over again because once you get that free trade agreement, that's the point we have actually left and the second referendum is off the table. So until we've got to that point, I think we're just delaying it.
Yes, I think you may well be right.
I really think we're actually causing ourselves more problems. The issue isn't Brexit. The issue is Parliament. So I'm with Farage to say, actually,
let's have an election.
First things first, let's have an election. We've waited 3.5 years to have Brexit. We can wait 3 3/4 and have an. But if we have an election, because what the problem is, Mike, is Brexit has shown up the people like the Yvette Coopers and Lisa Nandes. It's shown up what they really think of us.
Yeah.
So they need justice served at the ballot box, and then we go with Brexit. Because at the moment, people will sort of, danger is people will forget about things and they'll cling on to their seats.
Right.